So one of the very good reasons to do what we're doing today is because sometimes in moving through life, we don't set ourselves on a trajectory. And you have to know what you're going for. So we forget sometimes that joy is a destination, that happiness is a destination, that kindness is a destination and an experience. And so sometimes life is interesting, right? Like sometimes life is interesting. And yet, you know, we have the full capacity to rise up and be more, but there's just simply sometimes we forget to set ourselves, or we forget to set the course. Just like in your GPS, where you set the course for home. Home is a feeling of joy and bliss and being fully expressed. And so if we can't figure out a way to impact the body temple with that feeling, you won't know what you're going for. You might not know when you miss it. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And so it's important. And I can remember over time, I can remember years ago going to different seminar weekends and such. And I'd come from the weekend and I think everything was now right with the world. I was never going to be the same again. Oh, I was going to love everybody. I'd have no more problems, not ever, ever, ever. And I'd hang on to that for like, I don't know, a couple hours the next day, maybe, if I was lucky. And so that piece of reality said to me, oh, I had to do more work, right? And that's what we do around here a lot of time. We do that. And for those of you who have been attending but have never been in a class, I want you to hear. The invitation to come into class is because that is where you get the tools, so that after if we impact you with that feeling, you need to know, to have the tools to know how to stay on that track to get to that end experience on a regular basis. It'd be so lovely if more days than not, when we open our eyes, we're joy-filled. And some of you know that. Maybe many of you know that. But if you don't, it doesn't mean you can't. It just means for some reason you haven't quite cultivated the skills and the tools to keep rising up to that. So today, in practicing or celebrating kindness, bless you, I simply wanted you to feel what it feels like to be in a community where you're just surrounded by people who are kind. You know, I brought my granddaughter, as you know, some of you were here a couple of weeks ago for Mother's Day, and I brought my grandchildren, actually. William fell asleep in Bill's lap, and Lila went off into children's ministry, and she's normally shy. And so what that says to me is that we communicate safety and we communicate kindness. And Eileen was saying that following the children's ministry, Lila ran up to her to say goodbye and grabbed her leg. Like that's communicating safety and kindness. And I know this is like a hippie moment. Yeah, with flowers in our hair and all. But doesn't the world just need some more kindness? Yes. It just does. So today, we're going to have, in a few minutes, you know, I promised you a surprise, and I'm going to deliver. But in addition to that, today is one of those Sundays where it's called getting to know each other, right? Is that what we call it? Getting to know each other. And we have some facilitators of these circles. So these individuals are going to facilitate small circles. We really don't want the circles bigger than 5 if you really attach 6 people, but we want you to get into circles of people you don't know. And this is the 3rd time that we've done that, and the purpose is to get to know each other and to chat and to share. And today you will be sharing about kindness. That's what you will be doing today. But in order to speak to you, so this sounds sweet, and we talk about being, kind to your neighbors and stuff. However, there's also a bigger idea. And the bigger idea has to do with the world at large. I've said this last week, and I've been saying it as often as you stand still and willing to listen to me. The world needs you. The world needs your love, your kindness, your integrity. The world needs you. And there's somebody that I have who can tell you about this by far in a more global way than I can. Somebody that you love and adore very much and who has visited our community in the past. Please, a warm, loving CSL welcome for our spiritual director, the Reverend Dr. Kenn Gordon.
Good morning. Good morning. I love to see your new sanctuary. That's just marvelous. It looks beautiful out there. I trust that everybody's doing well and everything's wonderful. And welcome to Kindness Day. Kindness is an interesting thing. I was looking it up in the dictionary, as a matter of fact, to find out what the definition was. And the definition ranged everything from the act of being kind, which is like a duh, to giving from the heart with compassion. But the one I liked best that I read was the definition that said that kindness was giving without an expectation of return. And why I liked that so much was that it kind of reminded me that when I was a child, I remember, that's how old I am. I remember when people used to, specifically men, used to come and knock on the front door looking for food. Perhaps some of you can recall those times. And I remember my mother, who was, we were relatively poor. We didn't have a whole pile of money, but I can honestly say that nobody ever left our home without something to eat when they came and asked for it. It was a marvelous experience to watch it, and it kind of dwindled off and disappeared. But I think that kindness in society and kindness as individuals and human beings is really that act of being able to give without any expectation that there was going to be a return. Just give because it tells you in your heart that it's the right thing to do, and it also elates and uplifts. And I know that most of you are kind, but in case there's somebody out there who thinks maybe perhaps that they have an inability to be kind, I'd like to just share a short little remembrance that I have. That remembrance is a friend of mine who I went through practitioner studies and then I went through ministerial school with. And he was a hardcore realtor. He was a commercial realtor, and he was really a cutthroat kind of person. And I can remember that he was quite abrasive and really had a way about him. And his consciousness at the time was that anything that he did, he had to have something back in return. He only took action if he expected that there was going to be something coming back to him that he could get hold of and receive. And I remember as we were going into practitioner training, he began to transform and he began to have this change that came around him. And the change that was happening to him was a change that was for the good, as far as I could see. He suddenly started to appear to soften a little bit. He became more connectable. He became sweeter and more joyful, and he began to really relish and enjoy things that were happening in his life. And I remember once I was sitting after class, and we used to go to this restaurant, and we would basically summarize or digest what we'd heard in class and spend a couple hours together and have a good time, a whole group of us. And I can remember asking him one day what the difference was that occurred for him. And he told me that the difference was that he had made his mind up to become kind. He had decided that he was going to be kind. Now, I've known him now for 40 years, and he is one of the kindest people I know. He's very clear on what he does, and he's very clear on who he does it for. but he is a genuinely heartfelt person, and by the way, is extremely successful. And why I share that is because I feel that if he could do that, then almost anybody could. Kindness is really a choice that we make. And we might be addicted to the idea that it doesn't work, or that we can't utilize it, or it isn't working right for us. But the bottom line is that we can all choose to be kind if we want. We can actually make it a goal. We can make it an intention in our lives and begin acting from that kindness. Now, I also understand that there might be people in our society, probably not in this room, people in our society who might say, why would I choose to do that? I'm doing quite well the way I am right now. And I'll share with you is that when you give without expectation of return, what happens in my experience is everything is given unto you. You suddenly begin to find yourself in a situation where things are attracted to you and drawn to you, and everything becomes richer and brighter and lighter in your life, in how you do it and why you do it. Years ago, I had a couple who came to my church, and I've probably told you this story in New Jersey before, but years ago, I had a couple that came to our church when we were first starting out, and we were really tiny at the time. We were maybe 20 to 40 people that were showing up on Sunday services. And I recall that when they came, they automatically volunteered to do everything under the sun for us. It was extremely gratifying. Suddenly we had this thing called volunteer help in our organization. Instead of Deborah and I and my two adolescent children at the time, they actually would come and set up the chairs. They would make coffee. They would participate in everything that we ever did. And it was an extremely wonderful experience, and we really liked them. And Deborah and I became really close with them. Now, I'll share with you that they were there for about a year and a half, and the church was growing. Everything was looking good, and we were with them probably 3 days a week. We would spend time with them. And then one Sunday, we showed up at church, and they didn't come, and we were a little bit shocked. But we thought, well, maybe perhaps they had the weekend off. And so we called, and there was, and we thought, Sunday, we got even a little bit more concerned. And it was kind of strange there. So that went on, and that went on for about 5 or 6 weeks until finally somebody in our congregation told us that they had left the church and that they'd become Mormons. So they just decided one day that they would pack up and that they would move out. And I can remember that at that time, what I was trying to do was I was trying to give up debt in my life. I was trying to get rid of and take care of all debt that I had, no matter what it looked like. I wanted no monetary debt in my life. And so, of course, as happens to us often in religious science, as you're trying to give something up, everything unlike it shows up. So my debt seemed to be expanding and growing extemporaneously. It just kept growing and moving, and it was incredible. And I remember doing my treatment work every morning about it and saying, you know, I release any need to have debt in my life. I know that it all dissolves and dissipates and floats into the ethers. And so it wasn't working, in my opinion. And so one day I was sitting in my backyard and I was doing my contemplation, and all these thoughts kept coming into my mind. And I was thinking about the situations, which is what I'm apt to do because I usually determine my life based on my silent contemplations. And so I was going through it, and I remembered this thought coming into my mind. This couple jumped into my head, and I was thinking about it, and I was obviously feeling betrayed and abandoned. And I was sitting there, and I remember thinking, after all we did for them, they just left. At that particular point, as the saying goes, the nickel dropped. It suddenly occurred to me that what I was doing in life was I was doing my ministry and I was living my life with an expectation that if I gave, I would get something back in return. When that realization hit me and I understood what it was about and spent a little bit more time thinking about it, it really became obvious to me that my trying to get rid of debt meant that I had to get rid of debt, period. That I had to get rid of it on both sides of the nickel, both sides of the coin. That it wasn't enough just to get rid of the concept of me owing somebody. I had to also get rid of the concept that somebody owed me. Now, when I blend that with the idea of kindness, giving without an expectation of return, it becomes obvious that we don't get our benefit and we don't get our good from what we give away or from what we do. We get our good from who we are. And when we can begin to act our lives and live our lives from a place of compassion, understanding, and kindness, then the end result is that the universe delivers back to us everything we need in order to live that life, pressed down and flowing over. Now, once I decided that I was going to do that and I was no longer going to be hung up on those ideals of having to get something in return, I had to do some real radical changes in my experience and in my life. And the radical change that I had to take was I had to stop doing things because I thought I was going to get something back. So from that point forward, when somebody phoned me and said, would you volunteer to do this? I would have to sit down and I'd have to think about it before I said yes, because I'd have to adjust my mind to realize that I wasn't doing it to be liked. I wasn't doing it because I thought I was going to get a contact. I wasn't doing it because I thought if I did, you'd come to church. I wasn't doing it because I thought that you might give me some money. I wasn't doing it because I thought you might like me. I began to do it because it was who I was. And that means that I began to become kind to my own self. Now, I'll tell you that the debt disappeared almost instantaneously, and it was a lot of debt. I'll tell you furthermore that from that point forward, my life began a pathway of personal, authentic expression. Now, my aha here and my summary really is this. Kindness is a natural state of being. Kindness is the core of who we are. It is the truth of who we are. And when we act from kindness under the definition of giving without an expectation of return, what occurs for us is we awaken our own authentic self. We bring forward that super self that resides within us, that higher power. And it is the higher power that manifests and demonstrates. It's the higher power that attracts the goodness and the greatness into our life. Now, I do a lot of things in life, but I don't ever do it for money. I don't ever do it for expectation. And to this day, I sit down and I look at whether or not A, as my friend in practitioner studies did, whether or not my intention in life is to be kind, and B, whether or not I'm doing things with expectation, which I do not believe is kindness, that's bartering. So, here's my message for New Jersey this morning. I love you, and I know who you are. Even though I'm 3,000, 4,000 miles away, and I can just see little dots in the screen where your faces are out in the audience, I'm going to share with you that what you are is you are part of a movement that is a movement of kindness. It is a movement that is awakening to the truth of who we are to benefit our own individual lives and to benefit the world. And that the way to do it is to begin to apply yourself and give of yourself unconditionally. To be able to go out on the street and smile at someone without needing to have them smile back again. To be able to go out on the street and give a panhandler a couple of dollars, knowing that you might never see that again, but giving it from the spirit of your heart, from the intention of who you are. It's a matter of being able to go into your fellowship after this service and to be able to smile and connect with the people that are there without needing them to become something different or become something new. Kindness is the pathway to awakening to the unity of life. The reason that it works is because there's no such thing as giving something outside of yourself. Everything you give, whether it be a smile or an energy, everything you give back to yourself. So I bless you, and I celebrate Michelle for doing this teleconference. She's cutting edge, you might have noticed. And I let you know again that I love you, and I rely upon your kindness. God bless you. Thank you so much.
It is my intention to bring you speakers from all around the country, if possible, all around the world, and to organize this. So this was our first attempt, and so we'll check out the technology. If you are an IT expert, please lend your expertise to us. And so Dr. Kenn drove the message home, and the only thing the takeaway I want to reiterate that he already said, and maybe I'll be saying it in more simple terms. You can't outgive yourself. And any way that you engage the world, you're going to feel the impact of. And the impact is felt immediately. It's felt immediately. There's no way that we can live in a world of criticism and judgment without physically being affected by that criticism and judgment. Okay, I haven't done this in a while. Y'all up for a challenge? Okay, I love the yeses. No. This is a good challenge. I'm inviting you for the next 30 days to practice once again. Now it's going to be two-parter. To practice non-gossip and non-complaining. If you agree to that, stand. 30 days of non-gossip. Only stand if you're going to do it. Okay. Now, the second part is, for every day for 30 days, text, email, phone call, or do some kind of display of kindness, and if possible, to someone you don't know. Text, email, phone call, write a card, say a thank you, leave a pie at your neighbor's house, something for 30 days. If you're willing to do that, then give yourself a rousing applause. Thank you. So while you're standing, let's hold hands. Let's get together with somebody you don't know. You can join us if you want. Let's get together with somebody, hold hands, and let's just connect. And Richard, if you can give me a little undertone, that'd be great. Oh, man, is there love in the room? Yes. Is there kindness in the room? Yes. Can you feel your heart? Does it feel sweet and soft and gentle? This is what's possible. You are what's possible. This feeling is what's possible. Love is the result when we begin to strip away our default habits. Strip away gossip, strip away complaining, strip away judgment, strip away the objecting to life. And what shows up is love and enthusiasm and joy and kindness. It's natural, it is innate, and it is who you are. So if this feeling has been successfully generated in you today, then you get to know what you're moving toward. And if something comes up that is unlike it, there, in that space, you do your work. Right there. May you feel the blessings of life itself. May you feel the love and support of the intelligent oneness that is everywhere present, moving, ebbing, and flowing, and having its way with us. I declare on this good and this very good day that life is good. And I am so incredibly grateful. If you are willing to be a model of kindness today, I ask you to say, I accept. And knowing that that acceptance adheres to you all the support and the guidance and the way of being, I trust this process. May you be love on this day and every day. Thank you, Spirit, for this and so much more. And so it is. Thank you all. Thank you.